Hi everyone, long time no see, it's Vesper. Sorry for disappearing on you yet again. My new job has literally been sucking the life and soul out of me, but I'm finally here with a new video that I promised a million years ago. This video, and especially the name change itself, has been a long time in coming because I feel like I've been thinking about changing my name since 2013, and now that everything's done, I am officially Vesper now. It ironically feels like there isn't all that much to say. So yeah, in the interest of transparency, I want to say straight up that this video is mostly me reflecting upon the process and my thoughts in regards to name change, mostly for those who may be interested in one person's experience with changing their name. Please keep in mind that my experience is not likely to be your experience because of legislature, jurisdiction, bureaucracy, so yeah, please keep that in mind. Your mileage may vary. For those of you who are just now tuning into this particular video, my name is Vesper. I'm a non-binary person, an American who has been living abroad in Japan for many years until recently coming back to America this past end of March, April. So I will specifically be talking about name change from the point of view of an American, more specifically someone whose home state is Nevada, but who is now residing in the state of Washington. Generally speaking, and I feel like this is true regardless of where you live, the process of changing one's name is really a process of jumping through lots of legal hoops. The number of hoops, the types of hoops, the lengths at which you're expected to jump differ depending on where you live and what hurdles are thrown in your way. And for me, the number of hoops was probably the biggest hurdle or biggest intimidation factor there, and I feel really fortunate to be able to say that. In 2013, I began brainstorming names that I could ask people to refer to me as instead of my given name. I made the video QueerAsCat 17 talking about, my whole process of brainstorming gender neutral names, and I talked about in that video how difficult it is to really come up with a name that is truly gender neutral. And I'll be honest, at that time in 2013, I wasn't even really thinking about legally changing my name. I just wanted a different name for people to refer to me as instead of my given name. I hadn't even really seriously thought about the legal process of changing my name because it was intimidating, and I felt like that really wasn't an option for me because I was living in Japan, so I just wasn't even going there yet. Plus, I've long since had a really complicated relationship to my given name because I kind of like it as a name in and of itself. I just didn't want it to be for me. And so, yeah, it took me a while to navigate those thoughts and feelings and get to eventually wanting to legally change my name. A few weeks after posting that video brainstorming what name I wanted to go with, in which Vesper wasn't even on my radar when I made that particular video, it was just a few weeks later that I did come up with the name Vesper and fell in love with it immediately, and just, yeah, it clicked. Things clicked, and I wanted that to be my name. And now it is. Some people go through a number of names until they find the one that really works for them, that they really feel comfortable with. And some people hold off on legally changing their name for that reason, because they're unsure whether they really will want to be called that particular name for forever, or any number of reasons. And I totally get that. That wasn't my personal experience. I came across Vesper. It was the first name that I took on, and I'm really fortunate to have found that name. That said, even though it immediately felt comfortable for me and I immediately began to use it on QueerAsCat and online, it wasn't until a year or so later that I began to use it offline in queer spaces. And it was several years later, in 2017, that I finally decided to go full-time Vesper. The transition between being known as Vesper and my previous given name was really awkward, to say the least, because at various points in time, half of the people who knew me offline knew me as Vesper, and then the other half of people who, especially related to work and, medical stuff, knew me as a different name. And so when people from these two different worlds, two different sides of my life, happened to run into each other and they knew me by different names, it was really, really awkward for them and for me. But you see, I would have legally changed my name years ago, probably all the way back in 2014, because like I said, Vesper immediately felt comfortable for me and I wanted everyone to call me that. It just was a process to get to the point of getting everyone to call me that. But if I could have, I would have legally changed my name 4 years, 5 years ago. I just couldn't because being in Japan complicated things. So yeah, I gave up on the legal side, but I did move forward socially with my name change. I moved to another city, I changed jobs, and I started using Vesper in the workplace and outside of the workplace. The only places where my given name, my legal name was still used was in terms of legal capacity, in a medical office or on my ID. I had socially changed my name, it was just the legal side that I had to contend with. And when it became clear that I was going to move back to America, of course, I started looking into legally changing my name again. Only to find that Nevada had changed its laws in the whatever period of time that I had stopped looking. And those changes in the law couldn't have come at a better time for me, personally, because I left Japan at the end of March, came back to the States at the end of March, and as of April 2019, Nevada became among the small number of states to allow X as a gender marker on driver's licenses. Not only that, but you could legally change your name in Nevada without a doctor's note, without any proof of a gender change. That was something completely new. In fact, to change your name legally, you didn't have to post your name change in a local newspaper for 2 weeks anymore, which had been required for everyone unless it was a name change because of marriage. So this is great news, right? I was really, really happy, except, you know, things are never that simple for me. Everything has to be complicated. You see, yes, I was returning to America, but I wasn't returning to my home state of Nevada. Instead, I moved to Washington. So in order to do the name change, I still had to go through Nevada at first because that's where my residency was, but I also had to keep in mind Washington's name change and gender marker laws because ultimately I would be changing my residency from Nevada to Washington. So now I had twice the name change and gender marker laws to contend with. Long story short, I needed to change my name in Nevada because it was easier to do in Nevada than Washington, but I had to do it from afar. When it came to gender marker changes, I couldn't change my gender marker because changing it would not do me any good in Washington. While Nevada recognized X as a gender on driver's licenses, Washington does not yet recognize X. And so even if I did get an X driver's license in Nevada, once I converted my Nevada driver's license to a Washington driver's license, that X would have to be changed to an M or an F. So yay, Nevada, recognizing non-binary people, and boo Washington for not yet being on board with that. Plus, to throw it out there for those of you who may be a Nevada resident, you do have to physically go into a DMV to change the gender marker on your driver's license. And so I would have to fly to Nevada to change my gender marker to X, and then fly back to Washington only to change it back to an M or an F. Anyway, long story short, I am leaving my gender as it is for now, but I forgot to mention that Nevada also allows you to change your gender marker on your birth certificate to X. And regardless of what state you reside in, if you were born in the state of Nevada, you have to go through Nevada to change your gender marker on your birth certificate. So yes, I can change my gender to X on my birth certificate. And I do intend to change my gender marker to X on my birth certificate at some point. It's just not the biggest of priorities for me right now because changing my gender marker on my birth certificate wouldn't affect my daily life in the same way that a driver's license would. And I don't have the money to change my birth certificate at this point in time. But that is an option for me that I will be pursuing in the future. For now, I'm most focused on name change until Washington fucking gets on board with the gender marker thing. Fortunate for me, another thing that has changed recently in Nevada is that there now is an online tool to help you file online your petition of name change. And so I was able to file from afar in Washington for the name change through this online tool, which submitted the forms as an e-file, which I then had to also physically mail to a court in Nevada. But the process was so much easier because it was a a wizard that took me through the steps of filling out the paperwork. I feel so incredibly fortunate that Nevada has made these massive steps since I first looked into changing my name back in 2014. Anyway, to give you a basic timeline or sense of how long it took me to legally change my name, I submitted the e-file for the petition for name change on March 27, 2019. I got a copy of the petition for name change signed by a judge, approved, on April 18th, 2019. So it took less than a month, but after that I had to send away for certified copies of the petition of name change that I could then take to other agencies to change my name. That took additional money and another week. So yeah, it took about a month to change my name, and up until that point, the entire process cost nearly $300. Once I got those certified copies of the petition of name change, I then had to take them one by one to other government agencies, to the DMV, to my banks, etc., and change my name with each place one by one. It takes a lot of legwork, a lot of time, and so not only did it cost $300 just for the petition of name change, it costs money for the new driver's license, and it doesn't cost money for the banks and everything like that. It just costs a lot of time and effort. How anyone is supposed to do that if they don't have access to that much money, if they're working a full-time job and can't make it to all these places during business hours, is beyond me. I was really fucking lucky to be able to get through that whole process before I started a full-time job. To have had my name legally changed pretty much everywhere that needed to be changed so that I didn't have to transition my name with my current employer because they never knew my past name to begin with. And I really do feel fortunate to have been able to time things right and get things done in, that kind of timeline in that kind of way. I'm still not even done changing my name everywhere. I haven't changed my name on my birth certificate. I haven't bothered with my passport at this point. There are still other little places like PayPal I'm still working on, and etc. that I haven't done yet because it is such a long process that I'm going to be doing it for a while on an as-need basis, just because, my name's out there in various different places and I have to go to all of those places one by one. And while I have socially changed my name in Japan, I did that before coming here, and legally changed my name now, of course, if I ever go back to Nevada, if I visit family, there's still that social transition that needs to happen with my family. That still hasn't happened yet, except in my immediate family. And I'm not looking forward to that's a whole nother can of worms that I'm... But anyway, changing track, I want to talk about something else that is related to name change, and it's something that you may or may not have picked up on in watching this video thus far. Some of you may be familiar with the term dead name. It's a term that has become increasingly prevalent in usage among trans, gender non-conforming, gender variant, and non-binary people in recent years, I feel like. Dead name is used to refer to the name that was given to you by your parents upon being born, but which you no longer use or go by. People often distance themselves from their so-called dead name because that name was often given to them based on an assumed or coercively assigned gender at birth. Well, you may or may not have noticed that I have not once used the term dead name in this video because I don't refer to my old name as a dead name. I refer to it as my given name, and I refer to my current name as, simply my name, or if pushed or needing to make a distinction between my given name and my current name, I say Vesper is my chosen name. But I do not use given name for myself personally because I kind of low-key despise that word for myself personally. And I really want to stress that this is just my personal preference. I'm not trying to advocate against or for the usage of given name as opposed to dead name. This is just my personal preference, and I would like to talk about why I have that personal preference and why it is so important to me that my chosen words be respected. I personally choose to distance myself from the term dead name and would prefer that my parents and family members never encounter that term ever. Although I know that I have no control over whether they encounter that term or not, and it's a matter of fact that they are more likely to come across that term than not if they do get off their lazy asses and actually look into trans, non-binary, gender non-conforming things for themselves, because the term is that prevalent. But I really, really, really do not like that term for myself because, well, it's complicated, but the short of it is that it reminds me of my mom's response when I came out to her as non-binary, when I've approached her about wanting to and my plans to change my name. And by that I mean that it reminds me of my mom acting like she had lost a child, that the person that she knew as that previous given name had died, and I was somehow a different person, a stranger that she no longer knew. Just because I was rejecting the name she gave me and rejecting the fact that instead of having 2 daughters, she had 2 children, only one of whom was a daughter. And not only does it hurt, very much hurt, to be treated as if you died when you're literally right there, the same person that you were 5, 10, 20 minutes ago before you told your mom this thing that is really important to you and entrusted them with that information. Not only does it hurt to be treated like you fucking died when you're very much alive, it hurts to be treated like you're suddenly a stranger by someone that you've known your entire life and who ought to know you better than anyone else. Theoretically, of course. Yes, I get that family members have their own grieving and coming to terms with what feels like a change for them, even if it's always been your truth and you've been living with it your entire life. It's new to them and they have to go through this grieving process, blah, blah, blah. But I personally take offense with being treated as if I killed someone just because I'm, trying to live my truth more authentically than I have been up until this point in my life. And I refuse to use a term that kind of reinforces or affirms the thought process that I actually died, or that a name that I had died, because the name isn't the living thing. That name wasn't a different person. That name was still referring to me, and I'm very much not fucking dead. That's just me. Again, I'm not advocating for people to stop using deadname. I respect and understand that that terminology works for some people, but it very much does not work for me. And I just haven't seen anyone talk about how, dead name isn't universally a good term to refer to old names by, because it can actually be really offensive and hurtful for some of us out there. And so I thought I'd throw out my 2 cents, like I do. Take it or leave it. No offense meant to anyone who uses that word for themselves. I may hate dead name to the point of gritting my teeth whenever I hear the term, even not in reference to me, but I very much respect other people's usage of the terms. Just don't use it for me. Please respect the fact that my old name is simply an old name or a given name and not a dead name. And my current name is a chosen name or simply my name. And that's all for this video. I'm gonna cut myself off here. I have lots of other things to talk about, like I keep saying, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to make more videos on a more regular schedule, but we'll see. Like I said, my current job is literally sucking the soul and life out of me. You have no idea. But Gambare. Thank you for watching all the way through this video. If you have, I really appreciate every single one of you guys. Leave your comments in the comments section of the video if you have any personal feels on the term dead name or your personal experience in changing your name legally or socially. I'd love to hear from you all. I'll see you again next time, hopefully relatively soon. Bye.